Good morning, Panos.
Good morning, Sami.
There's more people in the go-to meeting than there are over here in Zoom. They're coming over though.
There are people in go-to meeting. Good morning, Jeff.
Morning. Yeah, the calendar didn't update with the Zoom information. And not everybody read the email.
Okay.
On my
Maybe
calendar, I only have this one.
is that old and forwarded, maybe? Yeah, you're right. We deleted the old one, at least when we sent out.
Hey, Sami, sorry I'm late.
Okay, Nirav, good morning.
Good morning.
Let's give him maybe another couple more minutes. I didn't. Yeah, we are. John here. Good morning. John, Chongochi, Scott, George. Okay. I think we can get started. Only thing I don't see a Chakrini regular attendant here. Anil is also here. Okay. So we have 4 or 5 items on our agenda. Do we have any opens before we can get started?
Sammy, if we get some time, I wanted to show the latest version of the presentation on demystifying inbound outbound. If you have time.
Yeah, it's already in agenda to cover that.
Okay.
Anil.
I have a, by the way, sorry, I have a hard stop in the second half of the meeting.
Okay.
I don't know if it's possible.
That is probably the first or second item in agenda. We will cover it. Give me a quick minute. Let's capture any other opens, then we can go there. Yeah. Any other opens from the team? If not, what we have on agenda is like we want to do the CSM presentation, any reviews that need to be done today. Let's complete that. Other 2-3 items that we have is that white paper readiness and panel preparation. That is a major topics that we want to close. I have not put it in the agenda. We also any opens related to the transition of CSM to the hardware management. We want to discuss. We should discuss that also. Yeah, with that, let us go to the CSM presentation preparations. So 2 presentations that we have, right? One is the Anil mentioned the, I didn't get the whole name on my mind. And then we will also DC lifecycle. Let's review those 2. Let's go at Anil. Let us go through your presentation review.
Okay. Let me share my screen. So is George on the call?
Yes, I'm on the call.
Oh, good. Thanks, George. So George and I did more reviews, and Pano is also joining. So Pano also helped. So we have a revised. We made some changes, and so we will talk about. First, we'll talk about. Overall theme of this is going to be. John and I will talk about roughly 10 minutes, and then we will invite Panos and Drew on the stage for 2 questions each in terms of how within the Google and within Meta in-band, out-of-band methods are being utilized by giving few examples. So, and then the remaining 5 to 10 minutes, then we'll open up the question for the audience. So that's the thought process we have kind of talked through so far. And the first 10 minutes presentation, we made some changes here. We will first describe, because when it comes to the in-band out methods, so there is a dependency with deployment models also. So although there are many ways to describe the deployment model, but this is one simple way of describing that we are sharing. This is coming from, taken from the effort that we have been doing in hardware product management. So left-hand side is bare metal, where hyperscaler owns hardware and firmware only, and then customers load all the other software stack, and then end user uses the services. In the middle is infrastructure, where hyperscaler owns up to the hypervisor, and then the customer owns loads the rest of the software. And application where hyperscaler owns all the way to the application layer, and then the services are end user then uses the service on top of that. So depending upon the hyperscaler ownership and the deployment model, the in-band out methods utilization or usage also varies because of the boundary of the ownership of the system stack. Question? Is there any question? Okay.
Like it's not a question, probably some
Okay.
side.
Yeah. So this is one aspect of when we want to discuss about in-band out-of-band. Okay. And the second is the scope of the discussion around the hardware management stuff. So hardware management covers a lot of areas, and we want to stay focused in this presentation on two areas: system monitoring and hardware fault management. With these two boundary conditions and the scope definition, here is the in-band and out-of-band management concepts that are defined, and how we are calling, what we are calling in-band versus out-of-band. So there is a concept within the platform, on platform, and off platform. And this is something I got from John, shared the slide, which was very useful to get that clarity. So if you look at just within the platform in the green box, any interface with BMC is defined as out-of-band. It's a slow path, typically, IPMI over MCTP type of concept, to connect to device, to reach other devices for monitoring purposes. And the interface through the IMA, in-band agent, over the, we can call fast path, or the main connection to the devices, the same connection used by the software stack, is what we call in-band. Now, when we come to outside the host or system, then connecting to the rest of the hyperscaler infrastructure, if we are connecting to through the IMA, then we define as in-band methods. And if we connect to the BMC or reach out BMC, then out-of-band. So this is how we are defining the in-band versus out-of-band. Does that make sense? Any questions?
Yeah, one
Yeah,
more.
but I think the diagram, that IPMI and MCTP are mutually exclusive is not, should be pointed out,
Which one, John?
because it's not IPMI over MCTP, right?
Yeah.
Here?
Within the diagram, you mentioned IPMI, right?
Yeah.
And it
Mhm.
looks like it's on top, it's right, and you should mention the fact that it's exclusive, right? Either you pick IPMI or you pick MCTP. There's no choice here. And the same with IPMI and Redfish, right? You either pick IPMI or Redfish. Choice be, instead of a slash, it'd be versus.
Got you. So this particular one you're talking about, right? IPMI here, the one I need to, I think this is a picture I need to.
That one and the one above it, right? Where you have IPMI / Redfish.
Okay. So
And
either
does-
IPMI or Redfish, I see. So I think slash means or, right? Maybe I spoke incorrectly, but
But it can mean a lot of things. That's why it can be interpreted, because some people put PLDM / MCTP to mean PLDM over MCTP.
got you. So we can simply say IPMI or Redfish, or IPMI or MCTP.
Yes, that'd be
Okay.
much
And
better.
Instead of
what about
slash, you
the-
want to put R.
and that MCTP, PLDM, PCIe going to and from, I'm not sure where, like, is this host software or host firmware, that IMA? And is it really speaking MCTP to the device over PCIe? Because that would be PCIe VDM. And I don't know of a host doing that. Now, I know there's some stuff with MMPI to the BMC, but
Yeah, George,
Yeah.
can you comment on that?
The host OS does not speak MMBI as of right now.
right.
Is my
But-
host OS
but-
does not speak MCTP. Sorry, my bad.
right. Yeah. So that bottom line looks wrong.
So we should say simply PCIe then, huh? PLDM
Correct.
PCIe.
It's just
mean-
PCIe.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what the implementation is using here. I mean, but as far as I know, there is no implementation on the host OS for MCTP. But I could be wrong. Like that. So maybe clarification is needed.
George on the line. George, you have a comment?
Yeah. I'm here. You can take it out for now. I'm not. All that I can say is that there is an MCTP path, but I don't want to talk about it right now. I'm not allowed to talk about it right now.
Yeah, I don't know if that's really MCTP or not.
Yeah.
What they're planning. I don't think I'd characterize it that way.
In other words, what
but
we
I
are
get
really
it.
saying here is whatever PCIe provides, you could use.
Yes.
Leave it at that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you
but
leave
you
with
don't-
PCIe, like PCIe, like current things do use PCIe. So there are like certain future platforms that don't like that have a different path. But I like it's not I cannot share
Yeah.
like what we're doing there now.
Okay.
Yeah. So what we can just leave it calling it PCI. That's it. Right.
Okay.
Actually, implementation could be a different thing. But at the end of the day, the in-band management agent (IMA) gets to PCIe bus and then access the devices. That is common, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And
And
how do we
also
get
have-
there? Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah,
And
you finish your thought, then I have a couple of comments on
And
this.
how we get to the through the PCI interface to device could be implementation specific.
I agree. Are others okay with that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll fix that.
At some point, do you declare where the IMA is running in a future slide?
Actually, we have not gone to that detail here.
Okay.
Because our focus really is kind of give the contrast between in-band and out-of-band management methods. So this is a logical representation of IMA, right?
I get it. John and I have been trying to represent this for 20 years. It's difficult.
So, I mean, I can tell you about in the meta, right? This in-band agent is sitting on the host, okay? And this is not just one agent, right? It depends upon the service area. You've got multiple agents, right? In the Google Stack, George can talk if he's willing to share. Otherwise,
Yeah. Google Stack it basically like I think we also similarly have like kind of like two configurations. So the main configuration it basically like runs on our on our host OS. We run a custom kernel, and we have some special abilities, and that IMA runs on it for the most part. There is also another hypervisor that we make, so the IMA runs like it's separate, right? It runs in the hypervisor as well. So there are two cases. But the most
and
common,
I guess,
sorry, go ahead.
I guess one other thing, George, when you and I were talking about, there's some implementation where the NIC is acting like a management agent, right?
That's right. So we also have SmartNICs where IMA basically SmartNIC in itself is a computer, and basically IMA provides like telemetry and monitoring for that. So the SmartNIC gets plugged into a PCIe slot, but the SmartNIC itself is a computer. Entire management is done by an IMA for that.
So that's, I think, another question I had. Like, do we want to say SmartNIC is doing IMA or is it out of band?
So we call we call it as an IMA with respect to SmartNIC. The entire SmartNIC is out of band to the host system.
Right.
You only have 20 minutes in your presentation. If you start going down the SmartNIC path, you'll never finish.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's why I kind of filter out all those details, right? Because it doesn't. We want to keep it simple to just clarify this contrast between what is in-band versus out-of-band. That's the key thing we want to communicate here.
So you can just voice over it. Yeah, SmartNIC also is considered or something like that. Another quick question on the picture.
I would not go towards SmartNIC because that's a Google specific, unless George is okay with that. One thing we can say is that
it's not Google specific. I think there are other people also looking into it. So,
I see.
Yes, architecture, right? We should.
Yes.
Okay. If it's open, then right. Fine. Then we can. Then George, let's work on that. Verbally, how we will explain that. One thing I may want to clarify here, just between us, right? At least in our infrastructure, right? We are showing logically two different interfaces here, or two paths, but physically there is only one way to get into machine, which is the front-end NIC. We call it front-end NIC. I think
that's implementation, right? I think architecturally what we want to allow, and the implementation side you can maybe.
Correct. Yeah.
So another quick comment on this, the devices. Can you do multiple of that? Just to say like just not one device, right? It's multiple devices on both PCIe. Yeah. No, double. Just to copy that device, that picture, and PCIe. Put on more than it kind of indicates multiple of them.
Okay. Panos, you own this. I'm not sure if I have access to this one. maybe you can edit that.
I'm collecting the comments. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so with that understanding, right, now we want to go over two examples. One is for monitoring, one for fault handling, right? So for system monitoring, considering multiple such hosts, when the data is either pulled out to in-band or out of band, it goes through system level aggregators and then saved into hyperscale big data cloud tables for various kind of monitoring, dashboarding, executive actions, and all that kind of thing. And also, the similar data can be used for auto remediation. So some policy-based remediation can be applied, and that then feeds back to the host system for the actual action. When it comes to the hardware,
one more quick comment there. There is internally the BMC and IMA can do local mediation, right? I don't know whether you want to.
Yeah. Sorry, I missed that part. Yeah. So when it comes to because there are cases where there is a handshake or the data sharing required between in-band management agent and BMC. So there is an interface defined for that, and we call it the in-band method.
No, I think what I mean to say
I
is.
think it was a different question. Sorry, Sami. Yeah. I think we should use two different words and call the local interventions, call them control. Like, after all, it's baseboard management controller. It controls the system. It's not just listening to things on the system. And then the same thing we could extend to say that IMA can also have a control over the hardware through its capabilities, but remediations and interventions outside of the box should go into a different domain. And we are talking about something which, the box itself, may not even have the data or the knowledge to apply a corrective action of that kind.
Is that answer your question, Sami?
Yeah. It's answering the question. The picture, it looks like unless you send the data out, you're not get a auto remediation coming in, right? I don't know whether it's, if you add local mediation, may make the sites busy, but you can just voice over, right?
So let me make sure I understand. What you're saying is that when it comes to remediation, it is not just through the hyperscale management infrastructure, it could be locally also.
Right. Locally in BMC, locally in IMA, locally IMC and BMC talking each other and doing mediation, right?
Yeah. That is possible. And the reason I didn't put it here is because right now what I'm focusing on as an example is the system monitoring, right? So the fact that monitoring means anything related to monitoring, right? So it could be in-band or out-of-band. Mm-hmm. And both methods can coexist and are complementary. And then what do we do with this data, right? So we first store the data and then do all kind of analytics on that. And then on top of that, we can build some policies and then apply auto remediation. So that's the context here of auto remediation. Within the platform, what happens is there's a lot of complexities. George, go ahead.
Yeah, so there are like a couple of nuances, right? For the most part, it's all like there's a very small subset that happens on the host itself, right? An example would be like downstream like port containment. That's based on like a policy, and then it will convey it. But most other things we basically like have it at what we call as cluster level. It's kind of like a local network for us, and so we do the auto remediation at that point of time. The reason is that all other parts, like we are a hyperscaler, services run. The machine has to be drained. The job has to be rescheduled. It's better for us to do outside the host. Anything that will take the host like down and come back, including post-package repair. Right? There are very, very, very small things that we do like on the host. Right? For example,
this is
like
very,
SSD.
Yeah. This is a good thing, George. So this is where I think the second part of this discussion, right? Q&A. We want to differentiate, okay, in the Google Fleet, this is the philosophy is used to take most of the actions through this system aggregator at the hyperscaler management level.
Yes.
Whereas in the case of Meta infrastructure, right, we apply both. So So we have remediation, auto remediation concepts also, and within platform also.
Yeah, I think quick time check, Anil. I think the main points, right? Let's make sure that we are able to give you a feedback.
Yeah. So I got that, and actually I will put in-band out-of-band here. I missed that part. Let me just touch base on when it comes to the fault management. So when it comes to fault management, we still have the same these devices, and then through BMC, the out-of-band interface. In addition to that, within the in-band, I'm kind of expanding that further and providing a little more clarity that within the in-band, it could be either OS first or firmware first. And the firmware first means any kind of fault detected within hardware, the notification goes to firmware first, and then from firmware to the OS, and then to the IMA agent. Or it could be straight from hardware to the OS, which is OS first. And there are pros and cons of both methods, and the scope where each of the method is relevant. So in the table, the OS first method generally is useful when there's a higher rate of errors, like correctable errors. And the firmware method is very relevant and useful in the failure cases where OS first may not be successful, like for example, uncorrected errors. And then third is the out-of-band. Out-of-band is definitely very essential, in fact, in the failure cases where in-band methods may not be successful, like catastrophic faults. On top of that, out-of-band method actually is very useful when there's a bare metal deployment, because in that case, the hyperscaler doesn't really own the stack, software stack. The in-band methods are hard to implement. So net message here is when it comes to hardware fault management, a hybrid method provides a flexibility in implementing such a solution. And then summary. So in summary, depending upon the deployment model, one thing is very clear that when it comes to bare metal, out-of-band methods are highly desirable. Okay, that's one key learning. When it comes to infrastructure and application type of deployment models, the in-band versus out-of-band are now varies, and depending upon the implementation and deployment, and hyperscaler to hyperscaler, the actual implementation may vary, but there'll be use of both in-band and out-of-band methods. And therefore, the net key message here is challenges in using a single method is there. There is a challenge in implementing just single method, and typically in the hyperscaler there'll be a use of both methods. And for out-of-band hardware fault management requirements, there's already work going on in the OCP hardware fault management sub-project. And for in-band hardware fault management requirements, there is still a lot of work need to be done here, and there is a need for OCP-driven initiatives.
I think we probably want to say is we are already looking into that. Please, we are asking people to join and get the things completed, right? So in other words, what we are saying, Anil, right? George, correct me if I'm wrong. We are looking into this issue for a while. We need to conclude that thing, right?
Oh, so
instead of saying you need initiatives, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so saying needs a in the CSM working group work is we are discussing that in CSM. Currently, we are discussing CSM working group.
Currently driven by the CSM. I think
work is going on there, and please join, right?
Okay, yes,
I'll fix that.
Agreed, Sammy.
Yeah, cool. I'll fix that. I think that's and then the call to action. Engage with OCP CSM work group work stream to participate in defining in-band hardware management requirements, and the participate in hardware fault management sub-project working with to find out-of-band hardware fault management.
Yeah, these links, once we are able to get the transition is finalized, then you may need to update the link before we present.
Sorry, you're saying this link is going to be changed?
We need to figure out if it's going to change or not, right? Let's reserve the time before finally we upload the thing, right? Currently,
Sure.
in our slides, it's not uploaded to the portal.
Okay.
So it's a FTA controlled. So let us make sure that we are revisiting that before presenting it.
Okay. And we need to also do a quick, good time management, because we want to stay within 10 to 12 minutes of presentation so that we open up for Panos and Drew to. By the way, I have one last question, logistics. So I use hardware management, and then logo here. Earlier in the deck, it was CSM. So I'm not sure if I got this right. Is this the right way, or should I change that to CSM?
Till FTA, right? If the transition is made, we probably need to message both FTA and management. We will get back to you on that.
FTI, like this?
Yeah, future technology initiatives under that. I think I don't recall. I think there is a template it was calling specifically. We can review upland, Anil.
Okay, then this is still need to be done. Then I'm going to just keep it here right now. Logo will be different, right?
Yes.
Let me just delete logo.
And meanwhile, I will look at the template that we posted and let you know.
Perfect.
The template that you gave me, Sammy, does not. The second slide does not call out like FTI.
Okay, if it is not, then that's not showing that. So I will look at it and we will fix it before tomorrow, Monday, right?
Perfect. Thank you. Sorry.
A quick time. This one. We have 30 minutes for the presentation. For CSM or FTA presentations, so not 20 minutes. So you could plan totally like 25 minutes and Q&A, or you can when you have to decide how you're transitioning it. So you may take a question along the way and transition it, or so you can think of 3 of you all have 10 minutes each or something like that, right?
Yeah.
You need to figure out how you're going to transition it.
Yeah. George and I discussed, so we will do 2 transitions. I'll introduce, come all the way to slide 5, and then I'll hand over to George.
Okay.
And George will continue 6, 7, and then pass it on to me. Sorry, my bad. I'll go up to, I will basically introduce, okay, till slide 4. And then George will take from 5 onward, 5, 6, 7, and will hand over to me on 8. And then I'll conclude the discussion and invite Panos and Drew.
Okay.
And then I'll ask 2 questions, and then George will ask 2 questions.
That's fine. You guys finalize the logistics there, right?
Sure.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks,
Any other
everybody.
questions before we move to the next one? If not, Nirav, thank you, Anil and George. And Nirav, you want to quickly go through your things and see any other opens need to be closed?
I will. Let me just share my entire screen. I think something is happening. So, all right. So we've looked at this presentation quite a while. How long do I have, Sammy, right now? 10, 15 minutes?
Try for 10 to 15 minutes. I do need to have
Okay.
another 10 minutes before we can close the meeting today.
All right. Let's see how many questions I get. So between me, Scott, Panos, we've been working on this presentation for a while now. I think there was feedback initially that I think we should start with what the scope of our presentation is. So I think we added this one slide. I need to. There's some beautification I need to do. Like I have a good like a diagram for a system. I need to update this slide based on that. But I think the message here is the scope of our work group is about data centers which are hyperscale in nature and have hundreds of thousands of geolocated and/or distributed servers. Why do that?
A quick comment before we go there. What is the ocean you're trying to put? You are saying it's different geos, or what is it?
The ocean, Scott, you want to cover that?
Yeah, it's a little, I think it's actually coming out confusing, but I was literally trying to highlight that the data centers are not, they're all over the world. And there's lots of systems and there's lots of data that is driving the life cycle.
The oceans of systems and oceans of data is.
Yeah, it's been interpreted.
I think we need to fix. Yeah, we may have to fix that. So I'll try.
We could just drop it and just show the different data centers. So.
Correct. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, I can just.
Yeah, I think there is like little confusion. It assumes a single data center is distributed. I don't know, maybe just terminology wise, we call it as multiple data centers.
Yeah. The reason my brain, I'll be brief. The reason my brain drifted there was because I was thinking about, like when you have them worldwide and you're sending, information over, underwater lines and whatnot, that information sometimes is bandwidth limited. So.
Yep. That's exactly right. We have to model everything. It's exactly right. Like
yeah, it has to be modeled. So the picture doesn't do the justice, but that was the background.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. We need to make it more.
Maybe just speak to it.
Yeah. So and then I think the second slide talks about what does a hyperscale cloud, what is the motivation behind it, and why we need it, and why. And I can talk. I mean, the talking points will include some statistics on where we are heading towards as an industry with hyperscale clouds coming up. They will have the expected heterogeneous configurations, not the same configuration as well, which is something that typically we expect. The why we are doing this, it's about economy of scale, cost savings. It entails a hierarchy of data going from each component to systems to rack, the overall data center. And at each stage, data has to be collected in a structured way. It has to be aggregated in a structured way. So those are the two main points here. There's a lot of data to be collected, and there's a lot of aggregation to be done so that at the data center level, a unified picture can be provided. We plan to use it. There are AI-enabled processings that are used for kind of aggregation of data and at the same time extraction of data. And there is also the security aspect. Sometimes some of the data needs to be access controlled. At the same time, it needs to be aggregated in a way that it gives out the message. At the same time, it doesn't divulge security information. So those are the kind of the bullet points.
A quick comment on the picture. What you're trying to communicate is the numbers, right? Number of data centers. I mean, number of components are larger compared to number of data center, number of racks and system, right?
Yeah. Again, the picture is not. Yeah, right. I know. We need to. That's what I'm saying. Across the presentation, we need to kind of beautify the.
Right. Yeah, maybe you need to communicate a number or a scalar on the right hand and some weighting set, then people can understand, right? Otherwise, some people's thinking is, data center really encompasses all the things on the bottom, right? It's not that data center is larger compared to these things, right? So
correct. I think these two diagrams together. I think maybe what we do is we combine these two slides and then put this and shorten this diagram and put it here, something like that. I think that's what we want to do. We'll work on it. Work on it. And this is just a recap on the previous presentation from Panos. So I think the way it all comes together is this presentation focused on how aggregation can be done at different tiers, and at the same time, aggregation can be done in different components to present a unified view, a single view of the entire data center, and at the same time, you can have a privileged panel that ensures security. Panos is probably best at speaking to this. So Panos, you're okay to speak to this, right?
Yes, I'm okay.
All right. So then jumping into kind of the life cycle. So I think why we want to do this is we want to start at the basics. We want to break down things into stages and factors and kind of walk through the entire life cycle and say, here are the things that we need to consider as far as factors are concerned when it comes to an uber large hyperscale data center. There are some factors here. There is already some work that has already been done in different forums in OCP for most of these things. We have to go and influence that work to include hyperscale requirements specifically. So that's the work that needs to be done. We walked through the plan design, procure, deploy, and we've gone through this multiple times, so I'm not going to recap it. But then there are areas where there there are opportunities for the OCP as a community in general, where we can come together and kind of call out specific actions that we can do to kind of standardize across some of the things like inventory management, software management, decommissioning, backup and recycle, conformity certification, orchestration ramp, and so on. And so that's what this slide is saying. Again, is there is a problem with data ocean. I mean, there's a lot of data to be collected for each of these stages across each of these phases. And it can be at a component level or at a system level or at a rack level or at different levels. I think what we need to start off with is a unified view of how the data should be represented. And that is like job number one as far as what we want to do. Before we can aggregate this data in a meaningful way and present it in a unified way at the data center level, we need to start at the system level and kind of represent it as a data model. And that's what our group is working on currently. There is an example device system tree, so we probably want to represent. And again, this is another diagram that we're still working on to kind of beautify it. I'll just put that in there. I previously had a kind of a. This is much better than what I had previously, but it's still work in progress. As far as like the content is there, we just need to represent it better. So there could be the utilization could have uptime, last utilization reset, last uptime since reset, how much time has been up, how much has been utilized, and this can be at a component or a system level. So and then there could be hardware faults that could be represented in these ways. Health status could be represented in terms of how many faults you get per device, per component, or per system. What is your threshold, so on and so forth. Once we do that, whether it's a vendor-defined model or aggregation logic, or whether it's a OCP standardized logic, all of these things can be brought together and represented at a data center level. So I think job number one is to focus on this, kind of work through different forums if we have to, or define some of these things which are unique to CSM in the CSM work group, and push them into the OCP standards. That way, we can have OCP compliant devices following these, and that will help the vendors, the data center providers, and the data center operators to represent data in a meaningful way. Last slide is just call to action.
My only
I
comment.
think
My only
Go
comment
ahead.
is don't use the word push. Use the word
I
submit.
don't have my spiel worked out. This is just content. I have to think a lot about my spiel. And this,
Okay, thank
I
you.
think Scott and I we've been going back and forth, and Panos too. I mean, we've been thinking about what to say, and I think most of these slides are not like. Usually slides are more like bullet-wise slides, and I don't like those slides. I like pictorial slides, so we will have to add notes here so that we don't forget.
Just my comment. Push is a little aggressive. So
Agree. Work through different to collaborate with them on that. Yes. So and the call to action. Right. So that's pretty much all we have. I ran through it very quickly. Go ahead.
Yeah, the slide 8, I think the way it was sounding is a lot of things are still not there, right? I think what you really want to trying to communicate here is we want to review at scale each components, and any changes that we identify, we need to work through the community to make it better, right?
Yeah. So I think what we want to say is there are some changes we have already identified, and there are other changes that we're still working through, and we are working through different communities to kind of add those and incorporate those into those different. I will. What I'll do is I'll put a kind of key takeaway here, and that's what's missing. Is kind of add a key takeaway. That way, it's clear what is exactly what we are saying. So that's one thing that's missing. Thank you for that.
One more thing. I think before when you start, you want to set the stage why we are looking at the LCM, DCSM as a area that we need to work, right? I think the main thing, what we are really two purposes we are trying to figure out, right? At least at a high level, right? It's we do need to have a OCP generic model so that when we are looking at different activities within the OCP, we can map to that model and make sure there's no gaps for new technologies, as well as we want to identify any opportunities for standardizing the
Correct.
communication across the different components, right?
Yeah, I
And
think
probably we want to wrap it up similarly, like so that we are trying to say like what is the conclusion of after this review, right?
I like the way Anil presented it. I should probably adjust to that. Is kind of have an agenda and have a summary slide. And I think this is going to be my summary slide, but I just need to add the content in there and make it. Yeah. So yes. So some of the things. Yeah. I think that's what you mean, right? Like kind of set the stage with an agenda of what we're talking about, and then kind of provide a summary at the end. I will do that.
So another, I think you were asking for the slides from John, right? I forwarded you. I don't know whether we want to use that or not. We.
I will add that.
Yeah.
I think, and another thing that Panos, if you have like better pictures of the components, if you don't mind sharing, I think you do.
I already sent that to you. If you saw.
Oh, you did.
Some
Okay,
moments ago.
perfect.
But you may need to copy paste if you need help. Ping me.
Will do. So that's the last thing. I think this diagram needs heavy update, and then I think this diagram needs heavy update. But content wise, we are there.
Yeah, go to slide 11, just to the summary, what you're wrapping up there.
No, I don't have. Yeah, I think summary would be slide 10. I need to add that summary here. Okay. I think what key takeaway here, and then the summary here, as what we are saying, right? That work with us. We want to bring a standard data model across different and applicable to specifically hyperscale data centers, and go and influence certain things. So please help us with this. That's about it from my side.
Okay. Thank you. Any other comments, question for Niravan team? So a quick check. So this is going to be George, Panos, and Nirav, you all three, right?
I think Scott has done a lot of work on this, so if we can add him as well.
Yeah, I think we checked with OCP. They have a 3 people limit for the presentation. And they were communicating to us, say, please work with to kind of make sure only 3, not more than that. Right?
Yeah, I think I can drop out. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Panos.
Sorry, I wanted to say, since I've not done that much work, you can leave my name out because it makes my procedure easier with legal, or else, I have to get legal in approval of that presentation. So I'd rather, skip that in that sense.
So who you
like
want?
if we give Nirav and Scott, that would be okay.
And George, you want to be in, or?
I'm fine either way. I think I'm fine either way. I can help, but also that if just Nirav and Scott did the most work, I'm happy to sit out as well.
Okay. So let me communicate the change to the Kate and the team, OCP team. The other 2 items. Thank you. Basically, like the paper, like data center telemetry sharing model. Do you guys have any opens or updates, whether we are able to get any approvals? We are still, from my side, I'm still working with my company to get it final approval.
Same here. I'll push to get it next week.
Same here.
Yeah, for me, I'm okay to publish it.
Okay, thank you, Sangachi. And Chakvini?
For Microsoft, we're okay.
that you are bringing out?
I think he said he's okay from Microsoft.
Okay, good, thank you.
Sorry, did my audio not come through? Can you hear me?
Yeah, now it's coming clear. Yeah, good.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, thank you, Panos. For Microsoft, we're okay.
Okay, thank you. So then I think once we get the other three, then we can close on that. So please work with your companies to get it ready by next week. So the other two papers, right? One is data center lifecycle management. So Nirav, do you see a path for getting a draft done week, or it needs more time? If you're not talking, you're not able to hear you.
Did anyone else get that this meeting has been recorded again?
No.
Or was it just me? Like reminding you.
So do you see a path, or you want to move it out for some more time? I need. Okay, if you're not able to conclude, then let's wait out. So George, on your the IMA white paper, do you have any timeline when we want to finish it? Yeah.
Yeah, I can get you the like draft. The draft is almost done for review. I still need like final pieces, and I'll share it with you like next week.
Sure. Thank you. There's at least get the telemetry data sharing model published and other things we can get to a level that we can ready for a final draft. Then we probably can ask others to get a final review, so that we have to go through the internal companies for a lot more review and approval, right? Because the data sharing model we started last year and gone through a first legal review, and second is probably a little easier to close it now. The final item the last, not last, maybe last for the final, what we have is I created a document called CSM 2023 panel prep in our 2023 Global Summit folder. Maybe I can bring it up. What we want to do is we would starting discussion on this next week. Let me share this. It just I basically put a template here for us to having a discussion. I'm looking for some input from all of you. Okay. So the way I was kind of thinking is let's capture the basic bio. I think last year we are not able to communicate what was originally we prepared. Let's make sure we will communicate that very clearly. I'm looking for all of you to put a basic bio for introduction. And the thinking here is let us introduce why we are looking into this MLAL for a fleet management. Then we want to start preparing for some questions. I'm again looking for the people here, like what are the good questions that we want to ask? Let us start putting some questions. I will also put my list by next week. Finally, we want to get a summary. What I'm thinking is we can ask each panel guys to do the summary, and we can do the final wrap up. Any
Sami,
questions?
quick question. I remember when we were discussing this panel some months ago, we were talking about both the case of ML for fleet management and for fleet management for ML, right? The challenges of fleet manager of traditional tooling against ML technologies, right? So I wanted to just remind us again, like whether we will only touch the first subject and not the second, or leave that panel open. If the discussion veers to that way, we have some material to discuss about.
I think we can keep it open. What am I thinking?
Yeah, we could say we start with the first one, but it could, like, the conversation could also turn around, and we may end up like answering some questions on the other subject.
Right. I think we had the abstract here. I think we had some discussion on that. It's not part of that sitting here. You're right, George. I mean, Panos, let us go through the list next week. Then we can have a more discussion on that topic. Okay, thank you. And again, team, if we have some questions, instead of waiting for next meeting, if you can add anything there, it'll be helpful for finally creating the list. The last item we want to have a quick update is we still have not gone through the hardware for management project for finalization. I believe, John, you have some questions. I have written it. I need to close one of the thing on the lead. What I'm kind of looking for is I'm also currently leading OSF co-lead as well as TCEM under work stream under sustainability. What I'm looking for is when we transition to hardware management, we would like to, if possible, if any one of you can lead the project or co-lead the project, it'll be good. I'm looking for volunteers who will be interested in leading or co-leading.
What does it mean?
Again, again, you can go and discuss part of your internal company, so you can make a decision and come back to me, so that we can, when we go to the hardware management, we can have the final recommendations there. Nirav, you had some questions?
Yeah, I was asking, what does it mean? What does it entail? Like,
so it's basically like a few things. As when you're work stream lead, you want to make sure that you're setting the agenda and running the work group, as well as giving the updates to the OCP committee and propagating the info back to the group. You're basically like a driver of the work stream and getting the result for the work stream, right? As a driver, but you're not probably like you're doing all the work, right? You have the whole teams here to get the work done, right? Again, I'm going to leave it open for you to think, and we will, when we meet again, we can have a additional discussion on that. I'm happy to lead until we can find a replacement, right? Or replacement or co-lead, however you want to do that. Okay, any other comments, questions before we can close today? If not, thank you, team. Let us finish all our presentations by Monday. Then we can forward to our FTA chairs for a final review. Thank you, team. We'll talk to you next week.
thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.